Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you and the blessings of God. Welcome to A-Level Maths live lesson. And today's topic is expanding brackets, but going one level further than the previous lessons and doing triple brackets. So just to warm you up, have a go at these warm-up questions. Expand the following. Just give you a minute to have a go at these. Hopefully the first one you've done quite quickly. Have a go at the second one, or carry on if you've started already. Give you one more minute on the second one. And hopefully you'll be done in a few more seconds. And remember to simplify. You should be able to spot a couple of terms that go together. And please check your answer. Okay, hopefully you got at least some of that right. Possibly all of that right would be great, because then that means you're ready to move on. If this is a little bit new to you and you're not quite getting the hang of it, not quite sure where these numbers and letters have come from and powers, then just go back 1 or 2 videos and look at the expanding brackets lessons that we've done over the last 2 lessons. Hopefully once you're at a level where you're comfortable with this, then you can go on to the next stage, which is expanding triple brackets. So let's give you an example of triple brackets. But first, the general principle. If you have to multiply 3 numbers together, the order does not matter. You can do whichever 2 you like first. So you could do 6 times 4, that's 24. And then you can times it by the 3rd number. That's fine. Or if you prefer, you can pick another 2 to multiply first. Let's say I could do the 4 times 2, and that makes 8, and then the 6 times 8 is 48. So the principle here is that when you're multiplying more than 2 numbers, then you're going to just pick 2 of them to do first, and then whatever answer you get, you're going to then times that answer by whatever's left to multiply with. So to give you an example, if I had some brackets and more than 2 this time, then it's up to you. You've got a time sign in between each of the brackets. So really this is like 6 times 5 times 4, or any 3 numbers multiplied together. You just have to pick 2 of them to start with. Which 2 you pick doesn't matter. So you could pick the first 2, multiply them together, get the answer, and then that answer you times by the 3rd bracket. If you don't want to pick those 2, you can pick any other 2. But the point is that when you're multiplying 3 brackets, it's just like multiplying 3 numbers. The technique is you have to pick 2 of them first, get the answer, and then that answer you then use and multiply with the 3rd number in the question. So pick 2, get the answer, and then multiply by the 3rd one. I'll show you how we do that here. I'm going to pick the first 2, which are just the first 2 we're looking at. You can, with a bit of practice, change the order around so that it becomes a little bit easier, but it's quite easy as it is. So I'm just going to pick the first 2. So that means I'm kind of ignoring the last one, the y plus 1. I'm just really concentrating on the first 2 and saying, let me multiply these out. So we get the answer. Now the only difference is that this time the answer still has to go in a bracket, one long bracket. So let's do 3y times y is 3y squared. 3y times the minus 2, that's minus 6y. Then switching, and it's the minus 2 times the y, that's minus 2y. And then finally for the first pair of brackets, the minus 2 times the minus 2, and that's plus 4. Try and spot anything that can just be made a little bit simpler. In the middle you've got minus 6y and the minus 2y. You want to simplify that. That can become minus 8y. That will save you a lot of work a bit later if you can just spot that now, because that's minus 8y. So what we have is the answer for the first pair of 2 brackets. When you multiply them together is 3y squared minus 8y plus 4. Shouldn't have been too difficult for you, should be ready to do that from GCSE. The reason it needs to go in brackets though is because there's still more multiplication to come. So we're going to just make sure those brackets are tightly around the answer we've got so far. And now I remember that I've still got to times by y plus 1, so I'm just going to bring my y plus 1 to join at the end. And now if you remember from last time, I said it's normally easier to get the smaller bracket at the front. You don't have to. You should still be able to get the right answer either way, but just to make it easier, especially as this is your first time watching this, let's get that short bracket at the front. And then once I've tidied it up a bit, try to remember the main technique from yesterday when you're dealing with expanding brackets and one of the brackets is quite complicated. It's just to try and focus on one thing first and then cover up the other thing that you're not looking at. So in this instance, you would just try to cover up that plus 1, just looking at the y and focusing on the y. Once you've done that, you can then swap, but at the moment we're just focusing on the y. So that becomes 3y cubed. Followed by sticking with the y, multiplying by the minus 8y, that's becoming minus 8y squared. Again, sticking with the y until all the bits are done. We've got y times the plus 4, so that's plus 4y. And now, because the y has been multiplied by everything, now is the time to then bring your little cover and say, look, I've done as much as I can, multiplied everything that I could with the y, so now it's time to switch and look at the other thing in the bracket, which is the 1. This should be quite easy because 1 times anything is just itself. So 1 times the 3y squared. Then you've got 1 times the minus 8y. And then you've got 1 times the plus 4. And that's the expanding done. Just to make it look a little bit nicer and easier to work with, just try to spot anything that can be simplified. So have a look through, try to spot any y squareds or y's that can be simplified. I'm just going to make a bit of room here. So hopefully you can spot, you've got minus 8y squared, and then a 3y squared can be combined. And the 4y and the minus 8y, we can put those two together, and that would work out to be the minus 8y squared plus the 3y squared, that's going to be minus 5y squared, and then finish it off plus the 4y minus the 8y, well those two can be combined to make minus 4y. And that's all the simplifying done. So then just bring it together and that's your final answer. 3y cubed minus 5y squared minus the 4y plus the 4. Okay, hopefully not too hard. Feel free to type any questions into the chat box. So just to go through the main technique here, starting with the brackets at the top, you're just picking 2 to work with to begin with. That third one we'll bring in later, but picking the 2 and we've got the 3y times the y, the 3y times the minus 2. Because you're working with just 2, it's standard stuff from GCSE, and you get your answer here, which is 3y squared minus 8y plus the 4. Then you're bringing in that third bracket, the y plus 1. Because it's the shorter of the two, the smaller of the two, it's easier to put it at the front. And now you've got y plus 1 in the first bracket times quite a long bracket. So you just work on it bit by bit. The y times the 3y squared, that's 3y cubed. The same y times the minus 8y, that's minus 8y squared. Y times the 4 plus 4y. And then you just want to switch. Just use your little cover up and think, okay, now my focus is on the 1. So taking the 1, timesing through, quite easy. And then you're just looking for things that you can simplify just to make it look as simple as possible. And that's your answer. Okay, one for you to try. Not sure how the quality is going to come out. Might have to write it myself. A little bit blurry, so I'm just going to rewrite it, but rather than use I'll try and use the x. So 2x plus 5, x plus 2, x minus 3, and I'm just going to switch the font and just put these x's in italic. It's not liking that. Okay, let's just try that again. So 2x plus 5, x plus the 2 times the x minus the 3. And just have a go at expanding those three brackets, and I'll take answers in about 2 minutes. Hopefully you've picked 2 to begin with, and you're multiplying those 2 brackets, not worrying about the third one. Accuracy is more important here than speed. If you make one mistake because you're trying to be really fast and get the answer quickly, well, that one mistake early on is going to lead to a lot of other mistakes in the next working out that follows, especially when you join in that third bracket. So accuracy is much more important here. Go slowly, go carefully. Okay, just one more minute. keep working on your solution, but I'm just going to do the first pair of brackets so that you can check so far that you're on the right lines. If you haven't simplified as you're going along, then you might have a slightly longer version of this answer. Which is okay, you'll still get the right answer eventually, but I've just simplified the 4x plus the 5x to make 9x. You could have left it separate if you forgot to do that step. That's fine, it's not a mistake, it just means you're gonna end up doing a little bit more working out than you need, but you should still get the right answer. Give you just another minute to see if you can finish it off. If you're okay so far, just carry on working until you get your final answer. Okay, if you have managed to get a final answer, then please feel free to type it into the chat window. In a few seconds, I'll put the answer up so you can check it yourself. Okay, good effort. MashaAllah, praise be to God. Let's see how close you are. First bracket, hopefully you got, is after you multiply out the first two, you get a long bracket of 2x squared plus 9x plus 10. That's the first step. You could have chosen two other brackets to multiply, that's fine. You'll get the same answer in the end, but it'll just look different in the middle. Here it just means the third bracket we need to still multiply is the x minus 3. So let's do that, and that becomes 2x cubed. And sticking with the x, plus 9x squared. Sticking with the x, plus 10x. And then covering up so that we know the x is done. We can focus on the minus 3. Minus 3, so do watch out. There's a minus which might get you stuck a little bit. Let's see how you did. It's minus 3 times the 2x squared. So that's minus 6x squared. Followed by the same minus 3 times the 9x, that's minus 27x. And then finally, the minus 3 has to be times by the 10, that's minus 30. Then you're just looking to simplify a little bit, and you've got 9x squared, which can be combined with the minus 6x squared, and that's going to give you 3x squared. So hopefully you've got an answer with 3x squared in there. And then the 10x can be combined with the minus 27x. Let's do the 9x squared minus the 6x squared. That's going to be 3x squared. Let's write that in. And 10x minus the 27x, let's see what you've got. Minus 17x is perfect. Well done to Aisha there for being very accurate on that. Inshallah, praise be to God. It's minus 27x. Oh, sorry, forgotten what was that. So 10x minus the 27x, that's minus 17x. bring the minus 30 to the front to join the rest, and there's your final answer. Well done if you've got 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 17x minus 30. Well done, fantastic, good work. And tomorrow we'll carry on with more algebra, inshallah, if God wills. Join us again 9 p.m. London time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.